focus on hitting your goals in every area of your business. Remember, the universe rewards the bold. A leader has to take the risks. So welcome to the Wealth on the Beach podcast. My name is Daniel Alonzo, and as always, I'm your host. I'm bringing you some of the brightest, most successful people in the United States and Canada, and I'm just so excited to be here today. This is episode number 64, and we have the privilege and opportunity to be with Jasmine Star. Jasmine Star is a photographer and business strategist from Newport Beach, California. She's really wealth on the beach, okay? So she is the epitome of wealth on the beach. She dropped out of law school and she now is an internationally recognized entrepreneur, later to become the founder of Social Curator and social media marketing membership for business owners. She's teaching us social media. We're gonna learn a lot from her today, but harnessing her passion and hustle, Jasmine empowers entrepreneurs to build a brand, market it on social media, and create a life they truly love. Some days you'll find her featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur, Inc. magazine, but most days she's in her sweatpants. We'll talk about those sweatpants, scrolling Instagram, but her favorite days are spent with her dog and her high school sweetheart, and they love tacos. So you tell me, you wanted to be a lawyer. Why did you want to be a lawyer?
Well, if you ask my family, they said because I like to argue a lot. And if you ask me, it was I wanted to create change, and I wanted to create change in a big way. And for me at the time, being the daughter of an immigrant, first generation Latina, it was a ticket. It was a ticket out of the hood. It was a ticket out of my circumstance, and it was a ticket to move my family to a different socioeconomic strata. And what I can now say years later, looking back, is I wanted to create change, and I wanted to make a difference. And now I'm able to do that, not under, jurisdiction or the law, but making changes in people's lives. And I feel like I'm truly standing in my purpose.
Well, you're definitely doing that. You're making such an amazing difference. So you went into photography. Did you like photography when you were young?
Well, we were very poor, so we never had pictures of us, very, very, very few pictures of us growing up, and they were usually taken from other people. But my mom happened to get a camera from somebody at church. She wanted to borrow it, and I remember watching my mom. It was a film camera, and experimenting with it, and I just loved the medium, and I loved the art form, and I loved how slow it took, and or how long it took. And when I was in college, I went to a very small liberal arts college, and they didn't have a program specifically for photography, but they offered this one class every other semester, and I signed up. I was developing my own film, and I fell in love with all of it. But even though my parents are super supportive, I just couldn't bring myself to say hey, I know I'm the first generation and we're in America, and can I please be a starving artist? So I decided to not pursue it professionally, but that passion had always been there. And it wasn't until I was in law school that my mom had a relapse with brain cancer. And that unearthed a lot of untold stories in our family, a lot of untold stories of what if. Looking back at your life, did you do enough? Were you enough? Did you pursue the things that lit you up, or were you doing things out of safety? And it forced me to reconcile the difference between safety and comfort to unpredictability and passion. And watching my mom battle valiantly cancer, and is still with us today. Her battle was 8.5 years, but it was 8.5 years as a wake-up call to say, life is short. What do you want to do? Will you walk the straight and narrow path and get you closer to where you want to go, or go on this safe path and say well, this is what I think I should be doing? And I think that was the greatest gift that my mom ever gave me.
Well, that's pretty incredible. I mean, what did your parents do for a living growing up?
Oh, well, my dad, they're not educated. And so my dad earned his citizenship from Mexico by enlisting in the Vietnam War, came back, earned his citizenship, and then also sponsored his family. And it was in East Los Angeles that my parents met. And they took whatever jobs they could get. My dad cleaned septic tanks, he cleaned trees, he was a line cook, he did whatever it took to put food on the table. And my mom had 5 children, and the the child care bill surpassed what she would be able to earn. So she ended up being a full-time mother and caretaker and homemaker. And she was fabulous. And she homeschooled all 5 of us because we lived in an area where the schools were not that great. And so she spent her life dedicating and educating her children while my dad took on every job he possibly could. And then when I was at 15 years old, he did something that was really unpredictable. He started a church in East Los Angeles. And for the past, goodness, like 20 years, he's been doing that. And the church is amazing and massive. And who would have thought, like, out of the hood and out of the ghetto is like the springing of like life. So it's been great.
Oh my
Crazy.
God.
I know, it's a
What
crazy
an
life.
amazing story.
It's a crazy life.
That is really cool. And so, I know how you grew up. I mean, it was a little bit tough sometimes.
Yes.
I mean, do you have any like childhood memories of maybe, some like tragedy or issues or just maybe not having enough when you were young?
This says a lot about my parents, is that my parents insulated us, and every situation that was hard was always wrapped in either a lesson, a learning, or just having fun. So my parents, we didn't have a washer or a dryer in, and my mom would put all of our clothes in trash bags, and then she would give us a trash bag to all of her 5 kids, and we would walk almost a mile to the laundromat where we would do wash our clothes and read our books, and then fold all the clothes and put them back in the trash bags, and then walk all the way back home. Or it's like, when you live in the hood, there's not libraries. And so my mom would gather all 5 of her kids, and we would get on the bus, and we would travel 45 minutes to a library. We would, borrow our books, go back home. We were the type of family who really, really, really just showed up for other people. And as a result of that, when we did not have Christmas gifts or we couldn't afford Thanksgiving turkey, people in our church were like leaving food on our porch or like putting like $20 in an envelope and putting it in our mailbox. And like legitimately, I just don't think I don't think that you could meet another brown person more proud to be an American than my father. And then he distilled that into us. It's like, I just think like this is the country of benevolence and abundance. And it was shown to us. And the only thing I could do now for the rest of my life is reflect everything that people have given and done for us and ensure that I'm paying it back tenfold in reciprocity and appreciation.
I mean, that's just incredible. I mean, coming from where you came from, people are listening on the podcast right now, and we'll have it up on YouTube later. But hopefully, when you're listening, you can feel her energy and her gratefulness to being an American. And to me, I think that every day. I mean, I'm getting the chills even talking about it right now with you because I'm so grateful and I feel so blessed and lucky that I get to be an American, like I was born here. And people that live in other countries, I mean, it's so much more difficult. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%, 100%. And I'm really thankful for my parents. My mom is Puerto Rican, and we have been able to travel back to the island. And it's such like a really charged political climate where we are right now. And the thing that keeps us grounded again and again is that, like, above all else, despite political differences, ideology differences, what Americans are really great at being are Americans. And at the end of the day, when we like love and support each other, and then like when it's juxtaposed by going back to Mexico, my dad's from San Miguel Bay, and we go there and it's beautiful, but we also know how fortunate we are to live in a country that has given us the opportunity to pursue things. And like when people talk about the American dream, and when people talk about the white picket fence, and when we'll talk about limitless opportunities, you don't really know what that is until you can go and experience it from the outside looking in. So super thankful. Like I always joke, like my dad ever gets cut, he's not bleeding. Like it's like red, white, and blue. Like the American flag will drip out of his wrist. You know what I'm saying? It's like he's the kind of guy who has like the United States Marine Corps flag in front of our house. I mean, this guy is like a bulldog through and through. So
I love it. He's my kind of guy, man.
Oh,
my
totally.
kind of guy.
Totally.
Because that's totally me, man. So anyways, okay. Good kid, bad kid growing up. I'm assuming you were a good kid, but did you ever get in any trouble? Were you mischievous at all?
This is so crazy because just a few days ago, I had this conversation with my parents, and I was like, I was such a good kid but y'all made me feel like I was bad. And my parents were like, what are you talking about? And I was just like, I was 15 years old and I got grounded because I came home late from church. Get
Oh my
out.
God.
Like,
Oh
get
my
out
God.
of here. I was like, what are you guys, I mean, what were you thinking? And my dad's like, I remember that day specifically. And he's like, you did not get grounded for coming home late from church. You got grounded because you were disrespectful to me. And I was like, okay. And then all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, I probably was that kid. I was a good kid. I followed the rules. I got good grades, class president, the whole nine, but I have a very strong personality. And what I see now, which I think is so empowering, is that I see a lot of women really identifying that they have a strong-willed daughter. And instead of saying she's picky, they'll say she's decisive. Instead of saying she's bossy, she's a leader. And I feel like my parents were on the cusp of that. I feel like they did their best. But I was like a wild horse. Like I wanted my way. I was very opinionated. I was the kind of like 6-year-old that would say, you know what, mom? I don't think you're doing it right. Let me show you how. So, I mean, I think it was a little bit difficult to like rear a daughter like myself. Overall, I was good, but I was also kind of like a pain in the butt. So,
Oh my God. I mean, you just described my 13-year-old daughter right now. I mean, literally, you and her will become best friends, okay? Because exactly. So, but honestly, I mean, it's funny because I considered being a lawyer when I was younger, probably because I was very opinionated and I had my reason for wanting things in a certain way. And look, I think what your parents did though was so correct because they didn't stop you from rising to the level that they knew that you could become. And so many people, they get mad at their kids, like, and I, regardless of how you feel about educational system and all that stuff. I mean, I think that the challenge with the educational system is they make kids feel stupid for getting a bad grade or something. And then the kid goes through life thinking they're not worthy because they got a bad grade in class. But maybe that class just wasn't their, passion. They just didn't want to do, well, or they couldn't, get the energy and excitement to do well in that class. And I just feel like, your parents figured it out that, man, if we call her a leader, she's going to feel great about, even though most people might say she's opinionated and she's maybe talks too much. We're going to call her a leader.
Absolutely. They spoke success and belief in my life when I didn't think about it for myself. I grew up obese. I grew up very big. I was made fun of because I had a very strong opinion. I was kind of like the target for a lot of the boys and to be made fun of. And I think that there are certain things and qualities that that parents can bring out in their children that like solicits or leads to their success in the future. I'll never forget. I was a tomboy, very much a tomboy. And I really wanted to box. And there was a community center. I'll never forget a community center. And I asked to see if I would be able to join. They said, no, it's for boys only. And I remember being so heartbroken. And my dad walked me back into the center. And I think he knew quite well that I still, if the rules are the rules, but he wanted to show me that he had my back and wanted to show me that he would still ask and defend for my desires. And I think that when you see a very strong, powerful man in your life who supports you and your wild dreams, it really does set the precedent for the type of life partner, business partner, structural partners in your life. And I think that my parents were just so spot on, even though they look back and they're like, we didn't really know what we were doing, but we were trying to do the best we could with what we had.
And I think they did an amazing job. So congratulations to your parents. All right. Okay. So look, you said, I heard you say that the work just gets harder. Somebody asked you, they're like, is it going to get easier? Like I got 40,000 people on my social media now. Like, when's it going to get easier? So tell me what you think about hard work and kind of address that question that people sometimes ask.
Yeah, I mean, to put context around that question, I'll never forget it because it was like a light bulb went off and I was like, oh, there's this misnomer specifically in the social media stratosphere that like the more followers you get or the more perceived success you receive, the easier it will become. And I feel like I want to be a champion of the complete opposite of that. Because if that's what we're leading people to believe, we're going to be perpetually dissatisfied and unfulfilled because we think that by getting X, it will fulfill us on a level now. But if you are not fulfilled with what you have now, you will not be fulfilled with what you want in the future. We have to find fulfillment and joy in what we're doing, period. The fact that we get to make more money or the fact that we get more followers as a result will not be the linchpin to our happiness. And so people say, if I get then all of a sudden I could just take a step back and breathe. And I'm like, no, baby boo, what got us here is not going to take us to our next level. I don't believe in like this massive notion of passive income. I do believe there's easier revenue streams of income, but like everything takes work. And the more you get, the more you will work. Now, I do not believe, I am not a proponent of hustle your face off because you just got to hustle your face off. No, but I'm also saying straight, quite honestly, like the more successful my business has become, the more I am working. However, I've never been happier. Like I love what I do. And as a result of working more and as a result of being more successful, I'm okay with that. And I just always want to be like 100.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think what you're saying is spot on. I mean, the work just increases, but it increases because I believe that progress equals happiness. So that's what drives me to continue to, because you probably don't know a lot about my story, but at 21, I got into business. By 28, I was completely financially independent. So I've been semi-retired for 15 plus years. And that was a choice though. But what I realized is that the reason why I really never stopped working is because anytime I really stopped working for any length of time, it wasn't happy. It wasn't fulfilling for me. So I actually love the work, but I just love the fact that I have built passive residual income to be able to fund any lifestyle that I want to be able to live, you know? So again, but I've always kept my foot in there as far as the work, because I really believe it's the work that makes you happy. It's the changing people's lives. It's the doing something good for somebody else, helping somebody that might need help, giving advice, things like that really make you happy, I think. What do you think about that?
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. It's like progress is a barometer of our purpose. And the more you progress, the more you find your purpose. And oftentimes the conversation that the next question that might be floating in the air is, well, how do I find my purpose? And I have never been the proponent of saying, follow these 3 steps and you will find your purpose. Action leads to clarity. But I didn't know that this was the person I was supposed to be. I didn't know that this was my purpose until I started doing and doing and doing. And I think it's in the process of doing, AKA progress, that we find our purpose, that we find profitability, and we find a way to connect with people around us to empower them to stand in their purpose.
So when did you first start with social media? Like how did you get into social media? What was the first social media outlet that you started plugging into? How did that all begin?
So I started my business. I became a photographer and I didn't own a camera. I said I want to be a photographer. I didn't own a camera, which is crazy. But this is why I'm a firm believer that like when people actually say the thing that they want to do, regardless of how crazy it sounds, I'm going to be the first person to co-sign, because if you want it bad enough, the world is your oyster. Let's have like a full circle moment. Let's go back. Like this is America. Like if you are listening in Canada or America, there's no reason you cannot at this very moment do the thing you want to do, regardless if you're profitable at the outset. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, what do you want to do? Go and do that. You have no reason not to. You are fully insulated by us, by simple proximity of where we live. Like that alone, you're already 10 steps ahead of the game. So I said I wanted to be a photographer. I don't have a camera. I get a camera as a Christmas gift from my husband. Very simple. We have no money, but he's just like, I believe that this is a thing that you want to do, so go out and do it. And I started my business in 2007, and by 2009, I was voted one of the top photographers in the world. We'd built a wildly successful business. My husband transitioned into the business with me, and it was roughly around 2009, 2010 that social media was really taking off. This is when Twitter was around. This is when Facebook was around. And what I realized that as a girl from the hood who built a business literally from nothing, you look around and say, what are the free resources that I can do to get people talking about me? And that my first foray was in that Twitter, Facebook kind of era. And I was terrible at it. There's a difference between being on social media and using social media.
Right,
and at the time I was just on it. Like I had an account and I would make statements. Like I would take a picture of my lunch and put, can't wait to eat, nom, nom, nom. You know, it's like Christmas is here. You know, like I like taking photos, and it's like, that's not building a brand. That's just like a status update, letting people know what you're doing, and you're not leaving room open for engagement. Around 2016, I jumped on YouTube around 2012 and then Instagram 2014. So again, you're just following the iteration. Whatever free resource came out, like that's what I'm doing. Do I have any business making videos? No. Like I had no background, I had no lighting, I had no editing skills. I just turned on a camera and I just made a video and I put it on YouTube. And then every time I pursued something and I stayed dedicated to it, regardless if I was good, bad, or ugly about it, it ended up growing my business in exponential ways. But it wasn't until 2016 where I said, okay, I'm kind of sort of using it. I'm on it. Like I'll make a video, I'll post a photo, but I saw businesses using social media with a strategy. And that's when I realized I need to take a step back and understand what I need to do to up level my business. Like, what do I need to do to move into a 7-figure lifestyle business? Like, what do I need to do? And that was to really understand that using social media means that you know who you're talking to, you have your plan, you're there with intention, you're there with consistency, and you're not above the one-to-one connection. That radically changed my perspective of social in 2016. And here we are a few years later and has just grown to hundreds of thousands of followers because what I teach myself, I then teach others. And that has been a game changer.
Well, I mean, it is funny though to think like that's kind of how we all started. I probably started on Facebook in 2012 and I didn't know what I was doing. Matter of fact, my wife signed up for me because I thought it was stupid. I thought it was, there was no way, like, what do I need to do that? You know, I'm a businessman, financial services, I do my deal. I like wanted nothing. Even when texting came out, I thought it was stupid. The first, 6 months of texting. I remember making fun of this lady in my business that she was texting all the time. And I'm like, I used to make fun of her, like going like, who am I? And I would make fun. It was like, looking back, all these different things that have come in have all been just signs of where the world's going. Mm-hmm. And I think, for me, luckily for me, I kind of figured things out pretty quickly on a couple of different levels and started getting on the bandwagon for some things, a little bit quicker. But so many people, don't you feel that like so many people they're just waiting and waiting and waiting and not getting mentorship? Like, for example, you teach people how to use social media. So why would if somebody wants to get great at something, why wouldn't somebody come to you and say, hey, help me? What do I got to do? Tell me what I got to do. I want to get better using you. I mean, why do you think people hesitate to do that kind of stuff?
I believe that, and I didn't make this up, her name is Dr. Carol Dweck. She has categorized people as fixed mindset and growth mindset. And there are some of us who are just born with a growth mindset where you look at any situation, regardless if it's good, hard, easy, bad, ugly, and you say, oh, I have an opportunity here. And there are some people with a fixed mindset who look at, this is my box. This is only what I can do. I can't do any more. Or I will never be as good as that person. So why bother? Why try? And this goes into a total life approach, like how you approach child raising, how you child rearing, how you approach social media, how you approach your business. And the good news, which she outlines in her book, is that even if you are hardwired with a limited mindset, a fixed mindset, you can train yourself to have a growth mindset. And I feel like I have just been in the perfect situation because I was born and programmed with a fixed mindset. I didn't learn how to read until I was 11, so I thought I was dumb. I grew up obese till I was about 13, 14. So I just thought I'm going to be overweight for the rest of my life. I put myself in these boxes and then told myself the same thought so many times that my thought became a belief. And what I realized that I got into my 20s, that if I start telling myself different thoughts, that I have the capacity to make better decisions about what I eat, that I have the capacity to literally learn anything I want to know on the free internet. That if I stopped giving myself excuses and started finding reasons for my success, then it would become an alignment. And so now I taught myself, I see, I'm like, hey, I spot other people who just say, I won't invest, I won't buy, I won't learn because I'll never be good at Instagram. I'll never know how to grow a tribe on Facebook. Well, if you keep on saying that, then you won't. But if you stop saying, I won't be able to do that, and you say, and you ask yourself, how will I be able to do that? Then the world is completely open to you. So why don't people come and say, hey, what can I learn from her by all of her free content on social media? They just have to tell themselves, even though it's hard or uncomfortable for me now, the more I do it, the easier it gets.
And so let me ask you this, like, why should people be on social media? I mean, especially, like, there's a lot of small business owners listening and watching right now. And so what's your 30 seconds to them in making sure that they understand that they're missing something if they don't get on social media and start utilizing this incredible tool to grow our businesses?
So I feel like there's two camps, Daniel. It's going to boil down to two types of people. People who have started a small business and they've been successful for the past like 5 or 6 years. And they're just like, social media's been here. And guess what? It hasn't had an effect on me. And to that, I respond, if it hasn't affected you now, it's going to affect you tomorrow. Because there's somebody else with less followers, less quality product, who charges less, but shows up more and knows how to communicate about their business, and they will take you out in 1 to 3 years. That's just facts. Like, that's just where we are in the current stage. Like, so what got you to this point in your business will only keep you at this state in your business, but there are other people using free resources and tools and expanding their brand that will come by and swallow you whole, because that's just the nature of what's happening. And then the second type of person is just like, well, maybe I could get by without it. And maybe you could inch by, but my question then becomes, why do you want to live a half life of your potential by taking a little bit of time on your back end and market your business for free to build not a customer, but an avid proponent of what you do? Because social media marketing is no longer transactional by X. It's become tribal. And I tell my friend, and their friend tells their friend, and Heather tells their friend to buy X. And you have not just created a marketing stream in your business, you've created a whole tribe, a whole windfall, a whole waterfall of multiple people talking about your business without you having to do any more work. That's scalable marketing. That's word of mouth marketing at epic proportions. And my question is, why don't you want that?
And then on top of all of that, I mean, could you imagine? I mean, you get to target certain demographics. You get to target certain people. I mean, one of the things that's changing my trajectory in my business, like big time right now, is the fact that now I have people setting up appointments with me. So for 23 years, I've been in business, Jasmine. I have constantly asked people, will you sit down with me so that we can have a conversation about your money and your wealth, right? And so that doesn't happen anymore. Now, people are actually, through my Calendly and some sponsored ads that we have, people are actually clicking a button that says, I want to set up an appointment with you because you're perfectly, exactly the person that I want to spend time with and get to know. It is flipping unbelievable, Jasmine. The future is here. You're either going to become a dinosaur or you're going to become one of the greats. So choice is yours. How many employees do you have? How hard is it to run a multi-million-dollar business like you're running right now? I mean, how hard is that? Does it cost you a lot of money? You have a lot of employees, a lot of, overhead?
The nature of our business has really been amazing. I really, for the first decade of my business as a photographer and educator, it was that one-to-one connection. It was a high-end premium offering for my photography. It was high-end premium offering when I collaborated with magazines, high-end premium offer when I did one-on-one consulting. And I really felt like that was wonderful and I loved it, but I felt like there was something scalable. There was something beyond just the one-to-one connection. And when we decided to expand our team, we did that around 2017. And now we have 15 teammates, and this is what we do. And we're all virtual, if you could believe it. So I'm a firm believer in like attracting top talent and people who also value their time and creativity. So whatever it is that you do, if it's Facebook ads, if it's copywriting, I want you to do it on your own terms, and I want to attract only A players. So this is what we need you to do. Get it done by your deadline, and we're cool. We're real cool. So it's been really good. It's been awesome.
Love it. I love that.
And
That's fantastic.
and actually, as a loop around, Daniel, when it comes back to social media, with the exception of one employee, so 14 out of 15 have all come by way of connecting with me on social media and saying, hey, I'm doing my own thing, but I love what you're doing and I think I want to join your team. And we, like, our application process with like big air quotes is just like, follow us on social, figure out what we're doing, value add, figure out how you can make our business better, do projects on your own time. And people are just like, hey, just yesterday, a girl said, Jasmine, I looked at your YouTube channel. You have followers there. I noticed you can do, and then she sends me a whole breakdown of what I could do to increase my YouTube. And I'm like, already? All right, we're going to have an interview with this girl, because why not harness somebody in who already drank the Kool-Aid, right? And
Right.
specialist at YouTube. Girl, come on in, knock on my door. I'll bring you right in. So that's been another benefit of social media. That's like an undercurrent of like outside of metrics and numbers.
I love that. Fantastic. You paid $3,500 for 5 minutes of Gary V's time. Why'd you do that, and what did you learn?
Oh, see, here we go again. This is a full loop around. So I follow people and I want to know like the inner workings. And I will never forget Gary Vaynerchuk launched his shoe line, Clouds and Dirt. And he did an Instagram live and he put up his phone, and him and like 4 or 5 other guys were in his office talking about the marketing strategy of how they were going to distribute their shoes. They threw a ton of mud on the wall, but one of his assistants, who has a much smaller following, was in the room. And I also happened to follow him. And then so Gary turns off the live. I follow up with his assistant. I'm like, hey, I noticed that you guys were talking about bundling. Are you guys still open to bundle? And he was just like, yeah, you'll be the first person. Here's a link. So what I did was I bought 35 pairs of shoes, and they were each $100 a pair of shoes. And I donated the shoes to a homeless organization, or excuse me, not homeless. I donated the shoes to an entrepreneur organization for young men in low economic areas, like back where my dad was living, like where our family started. And I didn't need, 35 pairs of shoes, but there's now these young entrepreneurs who did it. And I emailed Gary and I said, this is what I'm doing. And in exchange for that, I was supposed to go on an Instagram live with Gary and ask him a question. Well, lo and behold, I tried 3 times, and for some reason we couldn't get it right. And so he happened to come into LA, and I hit up that same assistant and I said, listen, Gary and I are supposed to go 5 minutes live on Instagram, but I don't need the popularity. I just want to ask him a question. And he's like, cool. And then Gary set up an in-person meeting with me in LA, and that 5-minute meeting turned into a 13-minute meeting. And it was powerful. It was powerful. I'm just a big proponent. I just love what he does. I think he's so forward thinking. And I really wanted to ask him about insights of the directions we should take Social Curator. And he gave some really good insights, and like, it just like really calibrated what we want to do growth wise and scalability before we actually start acquiring.
What's one of those things? What's one tip that he gave you that you remember?
Yeah, our big goal was to get, which we're going to be hitting, I'm sure, in the next few months, to get to 10,000 members of Social Curator. He was like, well, that's great, but what you really want to get is to 60. And I was like, all right. Okay, like that alone. And what I heard, all he said was, what you really want to do is get to 60. And what I heard is, based on his like acquisition strategy, investment strategy, when it comes to an MMR model business, like 60,000 is some key metric that they use. And I came back and I was like, okay, so what do we need to do to get there in the most sustainable way possible, serving our audience really well, and over time, creating premium offers for specific industries. So a lot happened. So I'm one of those people who I can synthesize. So without him saying X, Y, and Z, I was like, went back and I was like, oh, we got the plan. Let's just deploy on those strategies.
That's it. And sometimes it's nice when somebody with a giant vision can kind of come down and say, hey, you're not thinking big enough. Maybe you need to do a little bit bigger than what you're thinking. And it's nice to have mentors like that. It's nice to have people that are willing to push you, even though it might make you uncomfortable. They're willing to push you because they care about you and they care about your dream of accomplishing whatever it is that you want to accomplish. And so it's awesome. I mean, do you have any mentors right now other than Gary?
Yeah. The first person, I ran a very profitable and amazing business, but I wouldn't say it was an online business. I marketed myself online, but it was really like in-person connections, and that's what I did. And so entering into the digital sphere of a business, my mentor, James Wedmore, really, really opened my eyes to what it means to position your business as a digital business. And that has been a game changer.
Fantastic. And so tell me a little bit about JD. What's it like working with your husband?
I think it's amazing. I love it. I love it. I love it.
So how does he think about it?
Exactly. See, Daniel, okay. he ain't got the mic. So let's just pretend he loves it. Every meal is Thanksgiving and every day is Christmas. No, I think that it took us a minute to get adjusted. We met when we were kids. We met 16, 17 years old. And we had a long distance relationship during college. And when I was in law school, we still dated, we still supported each other. And then he was the person to believe in my dream before I gave myself the permission to believe in the dream. And as a result, I was able to loop him in the business and say, I'm going to grow this business and we can hire our first employee, or you can come along and help me. And he, crazy enough, agreed. And we really built out the business. And now, over a decade of working together, we have clearly defined roles. And I think that the conversation between us is only ever, are we having a husband and wife conversation? Are we having a business partner conversation? Because the way that we approach that becomes really, really, really different. And when it comes to business related projects, we are both co-founders of Social Curator, but within that, there are divisions and in projects, and one of us will always be 51 or 49. Because when we realized that we were both like 50%, it's like you're asking somebody to step down. And over time, we realized it's not about an issue of somebody being right or wrong. It's about who is the leader in this particular project. And whatever they say, go. We trust that other person, that you're in your lane of genius and I'm in mine. So when it's 51% and we disagree, if it's my call, it's my call. And if it's your call, it's your call. And that has been like, that has just saved us years of disagreements, because it's like, okay, you're right. Okay, I trust you. Let's go. And that has just been a total game changer for us.
Oh, that's going to change a lot of lives. What you just said right now, because there is so many people right now that are listening with their spouse, with their partner in business, and all they do is argue 24/7. And so that's going to allow them, and I've talked about it, me and Karma have been talking about it for a long, long time. You have to identify your roles, figure out what you need to get done and what you need to get done. And look, I mean, my job was to get done what I said I was going to get done. You know, if this is my division, if this is my area, then she's trusting me that I'm going to get it done, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. And so you just started a podcast, right? So how's that going right now? Do you need any guest speakers on that podcast?
You know, it's for us, it's been an experiment, Daniel. Like, we are only, like, at the time of this recording, we've only been doing it a month. And my whole thing was I wanted to give myself a creative project to experiment. Like, I didn't want to, like, I am a creative. And I feel like the more you build your business and the more that successful the business has become, it becomes very, 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 there's parameters, right? Like, you're beholden and responsible to your team and to your bottom line and your profitability and your goals. And I'm like, I want a project that has no rules. I want a project that I can just like mess up and have fun and do it my way and figure it out. And I just want to test. I told the team, I said, give me 6 months to test a variety of things, because I know that there are podcasts that look and feel a certain way, and that is so good for a certain type of podcaster. I'm like, I don't know what kind of podcaster I am. So what I want is just time to experiment and make a mess of it. And then when I have my strategy, then I'll be like, hey, yeah, let's start doing it this way. But until then, it's like Hot Mess Express, and we're having a freaking blast with it.
Okay, tell me the name of the podcast.
The Jasmine Star Show.
All right. And your YouTube channel, you're on YouTube, you're on Instagram. Of course, they need to all follow you. What's that? Jasmine Star?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
no, I was just going to say, I always tell people to put their name as their handle. Do you agree with that?
It depends on what your aspirations are. I knew strongly I wanted to build a personal brand because it was going to parlay with me. And, you know, we went back and forth with what we should name the podcast. We had a bunch of different things. And I was like, you know what? Right now, and I can change it. Guess what, Daniel? I can change the podcast name tomorrow. So
anytime
right now, we're doing it. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So you're on YouTube, you're on Instagram, you're on Twitter.
Facebook.
Everything.
All of it. Everything.
So I want everybody listening right now, okay, stop the recording right now and go and follow Jasmine on every single social media, platform out there, because she has brought so much value. I mean, so much free value to the world at this point. And I think if you really feel like you want a deeper connection, you really have to ask yourself, I mean, would you like her to be maybe one of your mentors to kind of guide you and push you forward and help you get to that next level in your life, whatever that is? I'm sure she's teaching all kinds of different stuff. So, this has been so much fun. I mean, we've gotten the pleasure to hang out with the awesome Jasmine Star. Remember, this is Wealth on the Beach podcast. Bringing you the greatest minds and the greatest people in the world. And so, Jasmine, I really do appreciate your time today. Is there anything, just last words of encouragement to the people out there to help them kind of get to that next version of themselves? Is there any last little idea that you could give them to kind of sign us off here?
I think it would be a great opportunity to loop back to the very thing that my dad did for me when he walked me into that community center. It's nice to do life with somebody who believes in your wild and impossible dreams. And so the thing that my father taught me, and that's what I want to leave here, is that we can always find excuses why we will not do something or pursue something, or we could find reasons why we will. And as we enter into 2020, I hope that everybody listens is only finding reasons for their success and not excuses why they can't have everything they want and more.
That was absolutely perfect. Thank you so much, Jasmine. As always, make sure you guys share this podcast like crazy. Tell the world about Jasmine Star and about the great things that she's doing. As a reminder, we're still signing people up for our Wealth on the Beach Club, 1 hour with me every single Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and one half an hour lesson, one half an hour Q&A. Check out our website, alonzoacademy.com, for more details. And as always, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Lots of great free, valuable content on there. And as always, dream bigger than ever, but make sure that you do it now. God bless you. We'll see you at the top.